Narcissistic individuals often exhibit easily recognizable traits: a lack of empathy, an incessant focus on themselves, seeing themselves as the center of the universe, and a sense of entitlement. Their relationships are often superficial because they primarily care about their own interests and are willing to exploit others to achieve their goals. They are immersed in delusions of power and personal grandeur while stubbornly denying any flaws. However, there exists a subtler form of narcissism, covert narcissism, that is harder to detect. Unlike the loud and flamboyant, overt narcissists, covert narcissists possess more introverted, discreet, and refined personality traits. They are like masters of disguise, concealing their narcissistic tendencies under a facade of modesty or even insecurity. The difference between these two types of narcissism lies not in their thoughts, but in how they express them. Statistics suggest that covert narcissism is more prevalent among women, whereas men are more likely to exhibit overt narcissism. However, this is not an absolute rule, and exceptions do exist. Let us delve into the labyrinth of the minds of covert narcissists, these masters of disguise with sophisticated manipulation skills. On this journey, we will lift the veil of mystery and uncover the telltale signs so you can protect yourself from the emotional traps they set. And if you find yourself entangled in a relationship with a covert narcissist, remember this: understanding your enemy is the most powerful weapon to help you escape the toxic maze, heal your wounds, and rediscover peace for your soul. Psychological trait 1. They are always the victim in every story. Covert narcissists, like their overt counterparts, lack empathy and conscience and always see themselves as number one. However, they present an entirely different facade, making it somewhat harder to identify them. You may initially believe you're dealing with a gentle, sweet, and kind soul. They always wear a mask, and their performances are so masterful that it takes prolonged exposure to uncover their true nature. Their apparent kindness and generosity often come with numerous strings attached. It's always about manipulation, emotional and perceptual manipulation. A defining characteristic of covert narcissists is their tendency to play the victim. Regardless of the situation, even when they are the ones causing the problems, drama, or crisis, they skillfully position themselves as the aggrieved party. Their identity is closely tied to this role. Additionally, their communication often leans towards passive aggressiveness. Instead of expressing their desires outright, they use timidity, an outward appearance of sweetness, or veiled suggestions to get you to comply willingly. For example, instead of saying directly, "I want you to give me money," they might say, "I know I don't earn as much as you, so I'll have to be extra frugal." This subtle manipulation makes you feel guilty and compels you to act in their favor. Their passive-aggressive language is a form of deception and a tool for manipulating their victims. However, it's worth noting that not everyone who uses this type of language is a narcissist. But for covert narcissists, it's a hallmark of their behavior. Psychological trait 2. Flaunting their ego through a cloak of insecurity. Unlike the confident and arrogant appearance of overt narcissists, covert narcissists cloak themselves in sweetness and humility. Upon first meeting, you might be impressed by their kindness and seemingly perfect demeanor. But beware. That is merely a surface-level guise, concealing a massive ego that craves validation. They skillfully feign insecurity to fish for compliments and incite others to shower them with praise. For instance, if you admire their new car, they might respond modestly, saying, "Oh, I don't know much about cars and my taste isn't that great." In reality, they likely spent considerable time researching and selecting that car. Their ultimate goal? To hear you contradict them with something like, "No way, you have excellent taste. The car you chose is amazing." This display of insecurity is nothing more than a tactic, a tool for manipulation designed to make you the fuel that inflates their ever-hungry ego. They are constantly seeking attention, praise and admiration from those around them. They often share their hardships and failures, sometimes exaggerating them, to elicit sympathy and comfort from others. Amidst their complaints, they subtly polish their image to accidentally showcase their achievements or contributions. Their aim isn't to seek genuine help, but to receive compliments, pity, and admiration. They are emotional leeches, draining positive energy from others without ever giving anything in return. A common red flag is their backhanded compliments, which often have a subtle undertone of putting you down. For example, they might say, "You look great today. Last time I saw you, I was really worried about you." While this seems like praise, it leaves you wondering, did I really look that bad before? These types of comments lower your self-esteem, even though they appear harmless on the surface. The insidious part is that others may not recognize the hidden intent behind their words, making you doubt yourself and feel increasingly insecure. When communicating with such individuals, it's essential to remain firm. Don't get drawn into their victim play. Recognize that your care and attention towards them will never be reciprocated fairly. Protect yourself by setting clear boundaries, and don't allow them to exploit your kindness and empathy. Psychological trait 3. They are overly sensitive to criticism. Covert narcissists exhibit an extraordinary sensitivity to everything around them, particularly criticism, no matter how minor. Why is that? Deep down, their inner world is fragile and insecure, constantly straining to mask profound self-doubt. Imagine narcissists as living in a castle they have built themselves, where they reign as royalty, the center of everyone's attention. This castle is constructed from illusions of perfection and a deep desire to be admired and praised by others. For covert narcissists, maintaining this image is far more challenging than it is for their overt counterparts, who excel at manipulation through excessive confidence and ostentation. Instead, covert narcissists rely on sweetness and feigned vulnerability to attract sympathy and attention. However, their castle is incredibly fragile. Even the gentlest criticism or slightest misstep can feel like a threat to them. Deep inside, they are plagued by an inner voice of relentless self-criticism, leaving them riddled with insecurity, inferiority, and shame. The stark contrast between the grandiose self they strive to maintain and the often harsh reality they face is the root cause of their constant mental tension. This is why they become overly sensitive, easily hurt, and perpetually defensive. They are quick to react against anything that might destabilize their castle of illusions, regardless of whether the intent behind it is good or not. By pretending to be weak or self-deprecating, they skillfully position themselves as victims to deflect criticism and manipulate others' empathy. They live in a constant state of tension between their illusions and reality. This sensitivity is not a sign of genuine emotional vulnerability, but rather a fragile shield that hides a complex inner world full of insecurity and fear. Psychological trait 4. They often avoid social gatherings. Covert narcissists tend to avoid social gatherings, creating an aura of mystery and elusiveness that puzzles those around them. They come up with countless excuses to decline invitations, leaving you wondering, why do they always disappear whenever there's a chance to have fun? The root cause lies in their fear of being exposed, and their anxiety that their flaws or failures might be uncovered by others. In their minds, interacting or sharing emotions with others equates to risking the collapse of the perfect image they have painstakingly constructed. This leads them to steer clear of social situations where authenticity and spontaneity are expected, as they feel they cannot control the environment or how others perceive them. In contrast, overt narcissists are the complete opposite. They thrive in social gatherings, parties, and events, where they can become the center of attention. With their massive egos, they are unafraid to showcase themselves, even treating such events as opportunities to assert their dominance in the eyes of others. However, this does not mean that covert narcissists lack a desire for attention. They also crave recognition, but their methods are far more subtle. Instead of attending every event like overt narcissists, they are highly selective. They only appear in situations where they can gain direct benefits, such as networking with influential people, building important relationships, or enhancing their image in front of a specific audience. In these settings, covert narcissists use tact and finesse to leave a favorable impression. They are not loud or overly showy, but they know how to attract attention indirectly, for example by telling a seemingly random story that highlights their accomplishments, or by being extremely thoughtful, making others believe they are admirable and exceptional. This calculated selectiveness and strategic appearances make covert narcissists harder to identify. They do not openly demand attention, but instead know how to show up at the right time and place to achieve their personal goals while maintaining their facade. This is why they often leave the impression of being mysterious or reserved, but in reality, every move is part of a sophisticated plan to bolster their image and gain personal advantages. Psychological trait 5. They harbor deep-seated jealousy. One of the standout traits of covert narcissists is their profound and persistent jealousy toward others. Unlike ordinary jealousy, which everyone experiences occasionally and can sometimes serve as a motivator for self-improvement, the jealousy of covert narcissists is bitter, selfish, and destructive. They never acknowledge the success or talents of others. Instead of giving fair recognition, they always seek to downplay others' achievements with remarks like, "They just got lucky," or "If they weren't given special treatment, they wouldn't have achieved anything." Such comments not only reflect their dissatisfaction, but are also an attempt to diminish others' value in the eyes of others. Notably, they are especially sensitive and easily provoked by those they perceive as better than themselves, whether in terms of appearance, talent, success, or status. They are constantly comparing themselves to those around them, and each time they feel inferior, they sink into frustration and bitterness. Rather than confronting these feelings, they skillfully hide them. In social interactions, covert narcissists often mask their jealousy with a facade of cheerfulness and friendliness. They might laugh and congratulate others on their successes, but in private they will unload all their negative emotions. They might criticize, gossip, or even fabricate stories about the person they envy. These comments, often disguised as private sharing, are actually weapons to tarnish the image of the person they envy. If you are close to someone like this, the relationship can have long-lasting negative effects. Over time, you may absorb their skeptical and negative outlook, starting to believe that everyone is fake, envious, and out to harm you. This mistrust not only makes you feel insecure, but also weakens your ability to build and maintain healthy social relationships. Ultimately, you may find yourself isolated in a spiral of suspicion, losing faith in those around you. Psychological trait 6. They conceal a sense of conceitedness. Covert narcissists always see themselves as indispensable and the brightest star in any situation. However, unlike overt narcissists who openly display their arrogance, covert narcissists choose a more subtle approach. Their shyness is not due to a lack of confidence, but stems from a hidden sense of superiority. They prefer to silently bask in their self-satisfaction and even take more pride in garnering attention without showing off publicly. In social relationships, they often appear humble, even deliberately downplaying themselves in a calculated manner. In reality, this is just a tactic to elicit compliments and recognition from others. For example, they might say, "I'm not sure I can do as well as you think," while secretly believing, "No one could do better than me." This feigned humility traps others into seeing them as modest and trustworthy. However, if you observe closely in various situations, you'll notice that they always find ways to shine indirectly. They might subtly suggest that their achievements be acknowledged, or cleverly point out that a project's success would not have been possible without their contributions. This is how they sustain their inner sense of superiority without revealing their true nature. The essence of a covert narcissist is a contradiction. They want to be recognized as exceptional while also hiding their conceit. They don't need to boast like overt narcissists. Instead, they use subtlety and finesse to quietly assert their top position in others' eyes. This makes them harder to recognize and more dangerous in personal and professional relationships. Psychological trait 7. They present different personas to different people. One particularly mind-bending aspect of covert narcissists is their ability to perform so convincingly that they create a perfect, admirable image for others while hiding their deeply conflicted and negative true selves. Imagine you have a friend who prides herself on being above gossip. She often proclaims, "I hate talking behind people's backs," or "I never get involved in petty gossip." Yet, when it's just the two of you, she's a completely different person. She gossips incessantly, not only discussing mutual acquaintances, but also embellishing stories to make them more dramatic and shocking. This contradiction might initially leave you confused, but if you fail to see their true nature, you can easily get drawn into their fabricated narratives. In friendships, you can maintain distance or be cautious with such people. However, if the covert narcissist is a family member, the situation becomes far more complex. You cannot easily walk away, and dealing with their constant manipulation and criticism can make you feel isolated. What's even more painful is that outsiders often don't see their true face. They only see the image of a kind, sweet person, and may believe that you are too sensitive or overthinking things. This not only leaves you feeling disappointed, but also creates a sense of loneliness in your relationship with that family member. Over time, this isolation can lead to a dangerous psychological state. You may start doubting yourself, wondering if you are indeed too sensitive or if there is something wrong with you. This growing insecurity and low self-esteem are precisely what covert narcissists aim for. They want to diminish your confidence and independence, to make you increasingly reliant on them. This dependency helps them solidify their power in the relationship and allows them to continue controlling you in subtle ways. They might even pretend to help or sympathize with you after being the very source of your instability, further trapping you in the negative emotional spiral they've created. This is why recognizing and understanding the true nature of covert narcissists is crucial, not only to protect yourself, but also to find a way out of the toxic influence they exert. Understanding the psychology of a covert narcissist is a journey into uncovering their subtle layers of disguise, covert manipulation, and internal contradictions. Unlike overt narcissists, covert narcissists hide their arrogance behind a facade of humility, vulnerability, or insecurity, making them harder to identify. However, their tactics, ranging from emotional manipulation and passive-aggressive communication to their refined need for control, can gradually erode others' self-esteem and confidence while they maintain their flawless public image. Recognizing these traits is the first step toward protecting yourself. Pay attention to behavioral patterns rather than isolated actions. Trust your intuition if something feels off, no matter how sweet, caring, or humble they appear on the surface. Their charm may lower your guard, but their actions and hidden motives often reveal their true nature over time. When dealing with a covert narcissist, it's crucial to establish clear boundaries and maintain emotional distance. Whether they are a friend, family member, or colleague, safeguarding your mental well-being must always be your top priority. Do not allow yourself to be drawn into their manipulation games or succumb to the guilt they try to impose. Ultimately, the key to navigating relationships with covert narcissists lies in understanding their strategies while preserving your own self-worth and confidence. Awareness is your most powerful weapon. Know what to look for, trust your instincts, and build relationships that empower you rather than deplete you.